Welcome. This is Video 8, Campaign Finance and Local Campaign Regulations. The City of Sacramento has adopted local campaign finance regulations, which apply to all candidates in some form or another. These regulations provide for campaign financing, also referred to as matching funds, restrict spending, and place limits on contributions. Due to budget constraints, public financing was not funded and is not available. However, the provisions pertaining to contribution limits remain in full force and effect. Let's look at the contribution limits. The City Code limits the amount a candidate may accept from a single source in an election period. There are two types of contributors: a person, which includes all individuals, businesses, and committees, and a large political committee, or LPC. This is a committee that is registered with the City of Sacramento and meets certain criteria as prescribed in the Code. A list of large political committees is contained in the Candidate Instructional Guide. Let's take a look at the limits. For a council candidate, the limits are: for person and for large political committee. For a mayoral candidate, the limits are: for person and for large political committee. Only those registered large political committees may contribute at the higher level. In addition to the limits, there are a few other aspects important to understand as it affects contribution limits. First is the election period. There are two election periods, the primary and the general. If a candidate wins outright in the primary, which is to receive a majority of votes cast, there is no general election and therefore no general election period. When this occurs, all contributions received before and after the primary election are attributed to the primary election period and must be cumulated to determine the total amount contributed by any single source. If one candidate does not win outright in the primary election, the top two vote receivers will continue to a general or runoff election. For these candidates only, the contribution limits start over on July 1st. Candidates can again collect up to the limit from the same contributors. All contributions received after the general election are attributed to the general election period and must be cumulated to determine the total amount contributed by any single source. For candidates involved in a special election, there is only one election period. The candidate with the greatest number of votes shall be elected to fill the vacant office. No runoff election shall occur. All contributions received before or after the special election are attributed to the special election period. As required by City Code, the candidate must include certain language when making a written solicitation for contributions. This notice informs contributors that there are limits and that giving is restricted. For detailed instructions and illustrations, refer to the Candidate Instructional Guide. This ends the Campaign Finance and Local Campaign Regulations video in the informational series. For the next set of instructions, watch Video 9, Filing the Nomination Documents.